Today we are going to learn how to draw the space shuttle. Most of the space shuttles do look the same, but we're focusing on Space Shuttle Atlantis because this was the last space shuttle that the United States flew. So this space shuttle served between 1985 and 2011, but it did retire in 2011, and currently it is at the Kennedy Space Center in Cocoa, Florida. So if you ever go up there to see the Space Center, you will see the shuttle. So I'm still getting over losing my voice, so bear with me. But what I want to do is not only show you how to draw the space shuttle, but I want to show you how to use a grid drawing, how to use a grid for drawing. A grid is just anytime you have an X and Y axis. So you have horizontal lines and you have vertical lines, and it makes a grid. So this full paper here is a grid. Here is another grid. We're going to see this one at the end, but it's just a mixture of horizontal and vertical lines. Each of my lines is given, each of my horizontal lines is given a letter, and each of my vertical lines is given a number. So this is, I'll be referencing line number 1, line number 2, line E, line F. So this grid drawing is useful because it helps you to learn how to draw things and to draw them in proportion. And also you can use a grid to help you enlarge a drawing or to shrink a drawing. So let's get started. I want you, don't just look at this space shuttle and try to draw it on your paper. I want you to actually follow the steps so that you're learning how to use the grid. Okay, here we go. So the space shuttle is one method that we used to get into space. And the design is that it is really like an airplane. So I'm pretty sure you've been on an airplane before. And this part right here is built like an airplane, and it can land like an airplane does. It lands on the runway after it re-enters Earth's atmosphere, but it takes off straight up. Okay. And I was going to get a picture for you so that you can actually see the real thing. So this is Space Shuttle Atlantis right here. So this is the part that looks like the airplane. It's called an orbiter. So this is where we're going to start with the orbiter. All right, we are going to take note that the orbiter, the nose of it goes as high as line C, and I might already have a little dot there for you. And the bottom of the orbiter goes as low as line F. And if you look at the ends, it's going to go all the way to line 1 and to line 5, maybe even just a little past it. So I'm going to find line F. I'm going to find line 1 and line 5. And I'm basically just going to trace line F. I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to start a little bit before line 1. I'm going to go all the way across to line F. This is the bottom. Now you'll see we are going to draw some engines here, but right now I just drew a line straight across. It's important for you to learn how to draw light, to draw super light so that you can easily erase and no longer see your lines. So that's the goal in this, is to draw very light, and then we will refine our drawing at the end. So there's my line. Now I'm going to come up to line C, C3, C3. This again is the nose of the orbiter. And if you look inside of this square right here between C and D and between 3 and 2, it curves into that square. So the orbiter is symmetrical. So whatever we do on one side, we're going to do the same on the other side. But we're going to get this super light drawing. The nose of the orbiter is going to curve down, and then it does go straight. And it goes straight until until about line E. Just after line E, it starts to curve out. So I've gone a little past line E right now. This curve, honestly, for me is difficult. I kind of come at it from two directions. So I know I want to go up this way. I know I want to curve. So I kind of like do this until my lines meet. I'm okay with that. I'm going to come curve out. And I don't seem to get the same curve on my right side as my left side for some reason. I think it's the way my hand, turns. So I have a habit of when I'm trying to do that, sometimes I'll turn my paper upside down to try to get a curve. Anyway, you'll find your little things that you do when you draw. Also, you'll see I will draw like several lines sometimes because I'm trying to find the line that I do like. Maybe this goes in a little too much, so I'm gonna try to keep playing around with these lines, but I don't want you to get stuck here and think that this has to be perfect and not be able to move away from this spot. So we're just gonna do our best right now. And then this is one of those things that as you practice it over and over and over, you get better. So I have a whole bunch of lines drawn. I'm gonna erase the ones that I don't like as much. And I'm not maybe 100% happy with this, but I'm okay with it. I'm not mad at it. I'm gonna move on. Not get stuck. Here we go. So we've got the basic shape of the orbiter. Okay, let's go ahead and focus on this right here. It's 3 engines at the orbiter. So the engines, if you look, if you were to be looking straight at the engine, it would be a circle, but because of the angle that we're looking, if you can kind of see how that circle turns into like an oval, and the more of an angle I have, the flatter that oval gets. So you could do that with your hands, see a circle, and turn it and see how the circle changes from a different perspective. Okay, so that is why we're gonna actually draw a flat oval right here. I'm gonna go just a little below line F, but right on line 3. A flat oval, and then I'm gonna make 2 more. Okay. So now I'm going to make sort of a rectangle shape or 2 squares that come out just a little bit further than where my ovals go. So maybe about right here, they come out about this far. For me, that's maybe about halfway between line 2 and 3 and halfway between line 3 and 4, approximately. And I'm not gonna go all the way down to line F. I'm gonna have it stay above line F, and I'm gonna turn this into a rectangle and then split it in half so it's like 2 sort of squares. Kind of round off the edges a little bit. This is not really the exact shape, but if you look at the space shuttle, where'd it go? There it is. So this is what we're kind of going for. There is a wing right here, but because the wing is like, we only see it as a line. We don't see the fullness of the wing. We just see it as a line. So we know that there is a wing that is there. Okay, from these ovals, we're gonna take a line from the corner straight up and a line from the corner straight up. And don't forget this corner, but it's gonna run into the engine above it. So these are our 3 engines. And we can now erase that line F that goes through the engines. Okay, so we have the orbiter, and now we need the fuel tank. This very, very large tank right here is what holds the fuel to help lift this whole orbiter, to help lift the space shuttle up into the sky. So it's going to go as tall as line A. It's going to be centered on line 3, and it's going to go out as wide as about line 2 to line 4. So I'm going to cut through almost in half, like a diagonal right here from line A to B. It almost goes diagonal to the corner. So I'm at 3A, and I'm going to go to B2. From 3A to B4. Now my grid, I can tell, is not perfectly measured. I can tell this space is a little bit bigger than that space. I just kind of did it, but if you were doing a real grid drawing, you want to make sure that your spacing is as close to measured perfect as possible. Okay, line 2 runs down here. If you can't see that line, you could always grab a ruler, but line 2 does run down here. I'm just gonna follow line 2 until I get to the space shuttle. And then I'm also gonna follow line 4 until I get to the orbiter, is what I meant to say. So now that we have this, we can kind of adjust our drawing a little bit because it's not pointy like a triangle at the top. Okay, we do not see the fuel tank. We do not see it show up below the orbiter. It's not as, doesn't come down as far. So we're gonna move over to the last step before the tiny details, and that's these 2 rockets on the side, which help to propel this whole space shuttle up into the sky. These are called solid rocket boosters. They help at the launch, at the liftoff, but once the shuttle gets going, and gets some momentum, and these boosters actually detach. They have some, I think they're called thrusters, but they've got some things that kind of help them to push away from the whole shuttle, from the tank and the orbiter, so that they don't like collide when they detach and cause a problem. So maybe we could watch a launch during class, and you'll see like how the solid rocket boosters, they go away from the whole space shuttle. All right, we know that the solid rocket boosters are going to go as tall as line B. That's going to put them a little bit higher than the orbiter and a little bit lower than the fuel tank. And they're going to go out as wide as line 1 and line 5, following it down. So the top is going to be starting kind of like an upside down V, or like you're going to make a triangle. So over here at line B, I'm going to make very lightly, I'm going to sketch a triangle top or an upside down V that is going to go from line B over to line 1 and from line B over to line 2, touching the fuel tank. And same thing on the other side. Super light because I don't want to leave it like a pointy V. And then there is some space because these are separate items, but you could just use the line that you already have drawn on line 2 for the fuel tank to be your solid rocket booster line. And then just follow over here, follow line 1 down till you hit the orbiter. It is going to extend a little past the orbiter. We'll do that next. And then follow line 5 down. Just like that. So then we can kind of round this off just a little bit. So it's not a sharp point, but it is still very aerodynamic. Okay, so we're going to extend the solid rocket boosters past the orbiter on line 1 and line 2, on line 4 and line 5. It's going to be the same flat oval like we drew for these engines up here, because once again, it's an engine, but it's the angle that we're looking at. So sometimes I draw I'll do it both ways. On this one, I'm gonna draw this little angled line first. Just a little bit of an angle out to the left and out to the right. And then my flat oval is gonna go from line to line, from the ends of these lines. So that's one way to do it. Or I'll come over here. I'm going to keep this parallel as much as I can. So for this one, I'm going to start with the flat oval, and I want it to extend wider than these lines. So I'm going to go from like here to about here. I'll start with the oval for this one. You end up with the same thing. It's just a different, a different approach. And then from here, I'll angle it in. So it's however you like to draw it, your process. So honestly, that's the structure of the space shuttle. So now we go in and we add some details. Well, first I would say let's darken up the lines that we like. If there's anything that we want to adjust, we could adjust that and erase lines we don't like. But let's go in and darken up the lines we like. I'm going to start with the orbiter. Whoops. I wanted to go. So the fuel tank, if we take a zoom in here, it's orange. There is some patterning and a change of colors just above the nose of the orbiter. I'm not going to get super detailed on the orbiter, but it's darker up at the nose. And then you do have the part that it's kind of like the windshield of an airplane or the windshield of a car. It's where the astronauts can look out. Now, the orbiter, because it is shaped like a plane, if you think about when you get on an airplane, it's really a cylinder. And the orbiter is that cylinder. So to help show, right now it looks very flat, very two-dimensional. To help kind of show that roundness of the cylinder, we're gonna add some shadow, some shading. So if you can look in this picture to kind of see where the shading would go, if you follow like a straight line down here and do a little shading, and you can kind of smudge it in. I extended this out too far for me to, you know, if it was really rounded, this part wouldn't go out as far. But I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave it now, let it be my, you know, next time I would know that ahead of time and do it differently. So I'm going to just kind of shade that in with my finger. It just helps to give it some form. And let's see if you want to put some shading on one side. It's up to you. Okay, so down here we're going to have the flag of the United States. No room to draw all those 50 stars for 50 states, so we'll do that. And this one is Space Shuttle Atlantis. And again, I chose that one because it was the last space shuttle to be in operation, and it's currently very close to us, about 2.5 hours or so north of us, in Cocoa Beach, Merritt Island, where NASA is at the Kennedy Space Center. So you can go see it. I would highly recommend that. It's a great trip. And then over here,